kid. It's the 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 kid. Blockbuster. Blockbuster. It's going to be a word that I'm going to mention a lot in this non-spoiler review of Tenet. Blockbuster. The art of the blockbuster. What does it mean to make a blockbuster? And there are rules. There are rules with regards to a blockbuster. So your boy found a way, in a very secret way, of watching this Tenet film. I was able to get into like a cinema that was open, socially distanced, and was a nice safe place for me to go to. So I was able to hook that in. So I thought, you know what? Let me bring this in and break this down. So remember, this is going to be non-spoiler because I don't believe I'm very, very, very adamant in ensuring that any films are not spoiled. Because I just think that it's very important that, whenever people go into certain films, especially films like this, which are plot heavy, they're not spoiled, and see, this is one film where you don't want to know anything about this, because there are some moments in this film where you're like, oh, snap, really? Damn, oh, okay. So where should we start? You see, for me, Tenet, the good points and bad points of Inception are like this. Tenet and Inception are very similar. They are very, they are very similar in terms of how the films are made and how the films made me feel. So in terms of how he structures this film, how he structured this film and so forth, and the feel, the look, the design, the pacing, it is very similar to Inception. It's like they're almost like cousins. So just to put it very simply, again, I think most guys know what the story is. So you have even trying to explain the story is even tricky. So you have a guy called the protagonist, who is obviously played by John David Washington, and he is obviously a kind of army soldier, special ops dude, kind of like a secret agent spy. And he has to pretty much stop World War III by going into, sort of by fighting this villain, Russian villain played by Kenneth Branagh, who has inverted certain aspects of the world. So it is a mixture of having to deal with a world where certain things in that world are backwards, as well as concepts of time travel. So I will leave it there. I will leave it there because I think if I say too much, I will spoil aspects of this for some people. Let me say this. And I told you, Blockbuster is going to be what we use in the review. But let's say this. From the reviews, this is where a lot of reviewers got this right. If you're a fan of Nolan and a fan of Inception, you will love this film. You will love this film. That's the key thing. If you're a fan of Inception, like if you loved Inception, I don't see how you don't love this film. Because for me, this is like Inception, but to the nth degree. So in terms of things you have to think about, the amounts of moving pieces that are happening, the kinds of things that are going on, and sort of, it takes things to the nth degree. Because even right now, I'm like, okay, whoa. Because at a point there are about, you're dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5 concepts at one point. So your brain is having to walk over to figure out, okay, what the heck is going on? So let me just go to, you know what? You always have to start with the good. So I'll start with the good points and the bad points. Something that maybe I'll take some questions from you guys in the live chat. So pros, cons, round up, and then I'll take some points from you people. Good points. I think with every Chris Nolan film, it is well made. It ain't like some trashy superhero comic book movie. So the framing, the intensity, and so forth, it is really good technical filmmaking. That's a really strong point. And I think, you see, I'll get to the action. because I had some issues with the action scenes, but also the action, for me, you know what the action is? It teases something that could have been. Because I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but why didn't you really explore that? Because that is such a crazy concept. I wish you took it to the next end. So obviously, when I do my spoiler review, you'll understand what I mean. That, oh, sugar, man, I wish you'd done more of that. So the action was good, but it didn't really fully investigate or take it to that next level. It's a really interesting idea. Again, I'll get to my comment, but I'm just dealing with the pros. The idea is really interesting. The general idea is really interesting because I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's a pretty cool idea, and using that idea and combining it with action. And for me, this is maybe one of the biggest strengths. We've never seen this concept like this done before with this kind of mix. Of course, we've seen time travel. Of course, we sort of sometimes seen things going backwards. But the stuff of time travel backwards mixed with action, spy espionage, we've never seen that mix before. John David Washington. Now, this thing about John David Washington, do you know what John David Washington is? He's Charlie Sheen. And people say, what do you mean by his Charlie Sheen? So let me just give you a background. Charlie Sheen. So this some guys may not know who Charlie Sheen is. So I'm really going into movie geek talk right now. So in case some of you guys know, Charlie Sheen is the son of one of the great actors, Mr. Martin Sheen, who of course was the star of Apocalypse Now, one of the great war movies of all time, and also he was in Badlands with Terrence Malick's film. But he's a very well known and very well respected actor. So when his son came through, it was a big deal because this is, oh my gosh, this is Martin Sheen's son. Now, Charlie Sheen was never really a good actor, but because he shared Martin Sheen's DNA, we just sort of felt a kindred spirit with him because of how much people loved Martin Sheen and because he talked like Martin Sheen as well. So there's always something about Charlie Sheen. I always felt that Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen's brother, was always the better one, but they just seem to choose Charlie Sheen. John David is in that category right now. He is no Daniel Kaluuya, Nate Parker, Isaiah Washington, or any of these other really good top tier actors that I'll say, no, these guys are damn good. He's not of that ilk, but there is something about him. And I think that even as you're watching him, there is a certain aura and energy he has that draws you towards him. It's like he just looks interesting. There's just something, even for me, even when I was just looking at the trailer, I was like, no, this guy, he just looks interesting. See, for me, because I did acting. So because I did acting for so long, I look at the very specifics and the technicalities of acting. So your use of eyes, speech, how you portray words, how you do variation of emotions, how you sell different lines. So I look at acting in a lot more detail than most people in the world. So for me, I can tell that the technicalities of his acting is not high tier, but he's Denzel's son. And because he's Denzel's son, similar to Charlie Sheen, that's Martin Sheen's son, you feel a reverence because there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Denzel because he's his child. So there are certain things he will do, things he'll say, and certain expressions that should remind me of Denzel. And I think he does share that kind of thing, special je ne sais quoi that Denzel had. Obviously, he's nowhere close to Denzel's ability because Denzel is one of the greatest actors of all time. You can't compare to him. Charlie Sheen could not hold a candle to Martin Sheen. Kiefer Sutherland was actually pretty close to Donald. So it is what it is. But I just felt that when I look at him, I'm like, this is his arena. Not really Blacklands. His arena is this guy could be a really, really good action star. He's like a star. Used really well, this guy can be a really good action star. You see, action stars and leading men are very different from actors. See, Gary Oldman can't be a star. He's an actor. Daniel Day-Lewis isn't a star. He's an actor. Tom Cruise is a star. That's a guy who's a star. Will Smith is a star. Will Smith is not an actor. He's a star. So I think for John David Washington, he's not an actor. He's like a star. And you saw, again, we'll get to the content, but for the pros, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting hero to have. See, for me, for Robert Pattinson, I thought Robert Pattinson was cool. He was all right. He was cool. I wouldn't say he was like amazing or superb, but I'll say, he was basically he was a good supporting belt for thingy. So I thought, okay, this is a good supporting elements for your boy. So those for me, I think, are the strongest points. Kenneth Branagh, I thought, was pretty good. I thought he played a pretty decent villain. But I think really, obviously, really the main shining spots of this are, as I said again, John David Washington is a very interesting star. And again, I don't want to spoil anything. There are some concepts in here that's like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. And there are some things that happen in this film that you're like, that's wild. That's wild. And you almost get it to know almost every Chris Nolan film, but I think this is definitely one of his films where, like, when there's something that happens in this film, that when it happens, you're like, oh, snap. and then once that happens, you now start to rethink about the film and things you've seen. You're like, oh, okay, whoa, what the hell is going on here? So there's interest, there's that stuff interesting. So those are the pros. Now to the cons. And this is now we get to the thing of Blockbuster. You see, there are rules of making a blockbuster. There are rules. You can't just make any blockbuster. And I think people have said, Nolan, he has, brought much more intelligence into the blockbuster. And it's true, you do like your blockbusters to be, not just trash. But Jurassic Park doesn't confuse its audience. T2 doesn't confuse its audience. Back to the Future doesn't confuse its audience. Indiana Jones doesn't confuse its audience. War of the Worlds doesn't confuse its audience. Cloverfield doesn't confuse its audience. And these are blockbusters where these are films that are made to entertain the masses. You see, that kind of indie independence film released like in March or November, that's not for the masses. Those are for guys like me, like hardcore film dudes who want to look at the directing, the lighting, the mixture of story, the heavy plot, the complexity, and that kind of stuff. You see, the thing with this is, as you're watching it, I felt that, whoa, you've rushed too much here. And I just think things move a bit too quickly. You don't really set the stage. And an example I use is something like The Matrix, which I think which is why The Matrix is such a cult, because The Matrix tells a very complicated story in a very concise way that is digestible, where when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And it doesn't go out of its way to confuse its audience. I think with this, similar to Inception, it just feels as if, bro, there are too many things happening here. I get it. You want to try and make things a bit confusing. You want to try and make the story a bit complex, which is cool. But if you're taking this out to the masses, and this requires skill, there is still a way in which you can put forth a complicated story in a far more concise way, where 99% can digest it, be entertained, but then a 1% can go in deeper, which is the beauty of the Matrix. 99% of people watch the Matrix and I'm like, oh, cool. But the 1% now know of the archetype of the hero, the Jesus references, the philosophical references, the references of free will, fate, all that kind of stuff. But that's for the 1%. But the 99% are like, oh no, this is a really cool action film with a pretty cool sci-fi story that makes me think about humanity and reality. So for me, with Tenet, it just feels as if the way it was structured and made, it's almost as if you're watching a puzzle. And instead of enjoying the film, I was spending my time thinking, okay, what the hell is going on? Because it's dealing with such a complicated concept and it's put across in such a complicated way that when the stakes are sort of presented to you, you don't feel as invested because you're like, I'm still confused. See, if you're confused, you can't be invested in the stakes. Back to the Future, you know what the stakes are. Okay, all right, boom, this is what it is. T2, you know what the stakes are. Even Terminator 1, all right, you know what it is. Machine coming at it, your boy Carl Reese, he's here to protect this person because she has John Connor. If John Connor gets clapped, we're screwed. Warren, we need to protect John Connor. T2, same thing. We need to protect John Connor. If John Connor is killed, the future is done. I bet. Let's ride. You know, this is what it is. Matrix, boom, we're here to free minds. Okay, we're here to free minds here. Or specifically, we're here to free Morpheus. But we're here to specifically to free minds and for me to be the one. So my thing is, and I think that's the issue, and that's why I bring the whole concept of the blockbuster. A blockbuster is not supposed to be complicated. It can have complex concepts, but it's not supposed to try its hard to prove how smart it is. And I think the issue I had with this film, and also with Inception, is Nolan is almost reveling at how smart he is. It's like, look, I'm so... Because I'm like, okay, but bro, I have no idea what is going on here. I have no idea how it's going on here. But even as well, even with regards to the technology to which they do the thing of things going in reverse, I didn't feel that was explained properly. It just felt like, okay, it's there. Because when you're doing a sci-fi, and you can argue that this is like science fiction or sci-fi, you know, when you're doing that, you need a section in the film where you're explaining the technology. Where, okay, this is now the tech being explained. This is how it works. This is what happens, and it's very elaborate and it's very visual. You know, but for me, I was like, okay, so how does this work? Where do they go through? So is it that they go through? You've not fully established that. You just sort of say, oh, well, it's just there, and then boom, it's like that. Okay, cool. Like, what? You know? So, and again, which is the issue, and I think this is the issue I always had with Nolan is show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. There are moments in this where a character is just spitting out all this information about physics and entropy and causality. I'm like, what the what? But we're here, but not there, but there, but there, but we there. I'm like, whoa. That's wild. So, in closing, you see, for me, my feelings of Tenet is similar to Inception. I told you, there are still sense where I rewatch Inception because there are particular moments in Inception where like, oh no, that was cool. That was interesting. And for me, for me, this is what it is, execution. Execution. And I think the big thing about a blockbuster is its execution. Blockbusters are not easy to make. Really good blockbusters, because you're trying to create a really good film that is dealing with complex concepts, but you have to try and condense it in a way that is understandable by the masses. That is really hard to do. It's not easy. It's actually easier just to put forth a bunch of complicated concepts and people are like, what the hell? Than to say, okay, I have this complex concept, but let me just break it down in a way in which is digestible for the masses. But for the 1%, they can understand the intricacies and the complexities. So it works for people on every level. That is the true out of a great blockbuster, which is what The Matrix was. A film that could be understood by the layman and the philosopher, you know, or the sociologist. So my thing about it is with Tenet is, similar to Inception, that there were some really crazy concepts in this. And if it was executed better, you'd have a great film. Inception is a great idea. Inception is, oh my gosh, imagine if you could enter inside the dreams of someone, input an idea, that changes how they operate. That's a great concept. But the way it was executed was because once you do that, I don't know how many of you guys have watched Jacob's Ladder. You have to make the dreams look sexy. You have to make the dreams look really visual, which was lost in Inception. Because if you're dealing with dreams, we've all dreamed. Dreams are crazy visual things. And I think even with Tenet, it's a really, really good idea. It's a really good idea. And I told you, there's something that happens in this. I said, oh my God, if they expanded on that idea and again, I can't really go into this because I can only go into this in spoilers, but when you see something that happens in it and you're like, oh, what? But if they expanded on that, you're like, oh, you could have a really crazy film. A really crazy film that would just mess with your head. Because, see, if Nolan gave me this idea and you just structured it differently, you could have one of the craziest films you've ever seen in your life. One of the craziest films because it's a crazy concept. It's a really crazy concept that if you just chip away, worked at it, it works. But at the moment, what you have is something that feels muddled and feels a bit confusing. So instead of you walking away saying, oh my, basically like the Matrix, there is nothing confusing about the Matrix. You walk away saying, oh my gosh, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. That makes sense. Or even a film like him and his brother did, Memento. Memento is complex, but the way it's put forth, it makes sense. So after you watch Memento, like, oh man, wow. Okay. So, but I felt this was a film with great ideas, but missed opportunities for it to really take it forward. And I think, again, with John David Washington, you could have made a really interesting action hero. And this is my thing. Nolan is a very good technical director. I'll be real with you. He is not to the extent of Lucas, but there's similarities that he has to George Lucas in terms of he comes up with really great ideas. I just think that he needs someone. What would be great if he had a co-writer. If he had a co-writer, I think that would be great. So then he had a writer who can take his ideas and say, no, let's just make this work as a story. Because I think this film is really interesting ideas, but as a story, as a narrative, doesn't kick. And I think his weakness are characters. Inception, I didn't give a damn about any of those characters. Interstellar, I didn't give a damn. And in this as well, I didn't care for the characters. So when things were at stake, I was like, I don't care because you've not sold me on the relationship between the characters, and that is key. Like in the Matrix, you care about Morpheus, you care about Neo, you care about Trinity, you care about these dudes. You're like, I really care because you feel the bond that these guys have. So that's my thing. That's just in closing. So before I take your questions, man, back to the point I made is that you see, again, people will disagree with me, but for me, I don't think. For me, Nolan, I think, is in a bad place right now. And I think the issue is so many people egg him on as you are so intelligent, you're so smart, you're such a genius. He will continue doing these things, but he will never be able to do what James Cameron does or Spielberg does. See, James Cameron is the king of the blockbuster. He understands this because he knows how to make a film that really connects with the masses. It's a skill. Insult Avatar all you want. There is a reason why it's made so much money. Aliens, that is a bloody amazing film. T2 for me is a masterpiece. T2, see, just that example, see, T2 should always be used as the benchmark for excellence in a blockbuster because T2 is, if you want action, you can enjoy the action. But there's a message there. There's philosophy there. There's sci-fi there. But what is at the heart of T2? Characters. If you don't care for the characters, your blockbuster can't work. And I think the issue with Nolan is he's got to be the star. He's the most important concept. So Nolan and his plot and story is more important than the characters. So what you're doing is, oh, that's so clever. Oh, that's so clever. But you don't care for the characters. A story can't work if you're not invested in the characters. We were invested in Lord of the Rings because we were taken on a journey with Frodo and Samwise. And because they had such great chemistry, forget about Aragorn. Aragorn was a break. Because we cared so much about Frodo and Samwise, we were like, man, we're riding for this dude. So beyond all the spectacle and everything, at the core of what made that trilogy so powerful was Frodo, Samwise, their relationship, and what they were going through. And that weird dude. Habits. Gollum was wild. Gollum was wild. But see, that's the thing. So the issue here, and the same thing with Inception. Inception, you don't care about the characters. You just talk about the story, the plot. But without characters, you caring for the characters, the story can't work because the stakes matter because we care for the protagonist. We hate the antagonist. We care for the protagonist's friend. We care about the crew because we want to see them succeed. Back to the Future, we really grew to love Marty and Doc. So we want to see them succeed. And I think the biggest issue with Nolan is that he doesn't invest enough with the characters and fully embellish them. So the characters are just sort of backdrops to his grand scheme that is this very complicated, puzzle-infested plot. But for me, and for some people, maybe all they like is a plot, which is cool. But for me, I'm about the emotions. Of course, you must have a very good plot. And that is the backbone of a film. You have to have a good story. But for me, you have to have heart. You see, the plot is the body. And you have to have a body to function. But for the body to really be something, you have to have a soul, a heart. No, you can maybe say that the plot is like the heart. The characters are the soul. So yeah, of course you can have a functioning film. Because as long as the heart is beating, you can function. But without a soul, then the body has no personality. The body has no personality. There's nothing that defines it. So with this, I just felt that the characters just seemed very plain. There wasn't. I couldn't say, oh, the character is something like that dude. Oh, that's what he's about. You know, that's what it's about. It just seemed just very there. You know, so, but yeah, look, man. I mean, how do I feel about the film overall? You see, and I may be one of the few that thinks like this. Nolan, he's a very talented filmmaker in the wrong genre. So would you say that this is a superb filmmaker? You can just say this guy is very good. But for me, I think he's in the wrong genre. For me, I think his strength is linear films that are narrative driven, basically like his Memento, Insomnia, Prestige. Nolan's best film is still either Memento or The Prestige. Those are still his best films, you know. But I think these bigger kinds of films, it's a skill that Spielberg has mastered, that James Cameron has mastered, that Lucas mastered with the first Star Wars film. That not everyone can do these kinds of films. So let me take some of your questions right now, guys. Then, so remember, guys, if you've seen it, no spoilers, man. How are the female actresses in Tenet? Well, it's basically there are two main female actresses in this, man. I've forgotten what name is this Indian lady who plays a small but pivotal role, and there's of course Elizabeth Debicki. She was in Widows, and she plays like the main lady in this. I thought she was pretty good. She obviously plays a key role. I thought she was, because I have some reviewers say, "Oh no, she like it feels like it's not very progressive." I'm like, why, you want her to start shooting guns and being part of the action? No, for me, no. She's a good actress because I saw her in Widows previously, and yeah, she was alright. She was alright, man. So yeah, she was cool. Let's see what else are you guys saying. So guys, send in any questions and then I'll do my best to answer for you without doing any spoilers, man. Um, I can't give this film an A rating. For me, an A film has to have two or five things: epic acting performance, epic story characters, epic action choreography, epic directing, epic opening and ending. So let me even address all these things. There is no epic acting or performance in this. The story is interesting. You could argue that it is an epic story, but no. It's not an epic story. It's an epic idea. It's an epic idea, not an epic story. For me, they don't really fully sell you on the stakes of what is at stake. So the story is not epic. The idea is epic. The characters are not epic. Epic action choreography. I want to try and be as non-spoilerish as possible. The idea of the action and choreography was crazy. It just wasn't taken to the nth degree. Under a different director, they could have done way more with the action and choreography. I thought that basically they could have done more. Let me look at that. They could have done a lot more with the action and choreography. It's a great idea, not taken to its full extent. Directing was good. Directing was good. Opening, Zai. It was alright. It was alright. It was alright. What do call it? Opening. Okay, let us see, man. How is Keanu Reeves a crap actor if he was present in The Matrix? Because it does not really depend on him being a great actor, because Neo is a blank slate. Neo is just the hero. The real hero, the key character in The Matrix is Morpheus, because Morpheus is the guy that explains everything and establishes everything. Neo is just there to be the hero. That's it. Lawrence Fishburne is the key ingredient in The Matrix. Hence why the Wachowskis fought so hard to get Lawrence Fishburne, because they knew how important he was for the film. They're not getting the acting from Keanu Reeves or Karen Moss. It's from Lawrence Fishburne. From Paul Barras, thank you for the super chats. Did you also find the sound mixing muffled? Thank you for reminding me. You see, two things. So first thing, the sound is loud. The music is loud. When the music kicks, I was like, well, what the heck? That's loud. So yeah, the music was very loud. There were bits where I couldn't really hear what people were saying, which is weird. And I think that was almost the same issue I had with Rises and Bane, where I couldn't really hear what Bane was saying. But yeah, there were definitely scenes in which I was like, okay, wait, it felt a bit inaudible in bits, man. So so that's the thing there, man. All right. HH, do you think Nolan needs a box office flop to realize the errors in his ways, or can he fix them on his own accord? You see, Darren, this is the thing. I don't know whether he could ever have a box office flop, because the standard of films are so bad and people are so in love with Nolan. Basically, it just depends on when the love affair with Nolan ends, which began really with the Dark Knight. So all the Dark Knight Batman fanboys, almost religiously like a cult, follow and love everything that Nolan does, because they just feel like, oh my, this was the guy that gave us Dark Knight. We have to support him and do whatever he does. Like, Dark Knight was the worst thing that happened to Nolan, because what it is that he's going to keep on going down this rabbit hole of making nonsensical blockbuster films, and he's in a pocket that he simply isn't good at. As someone said, action is very important in a thingy, in a blockbuster film. Inception and Tenet, that's pretty action heavy. There is not a single scene that comes close to the warehouse scene in the first Matrix, the chateau scene in Reloaded, or the scene on the highway in T2. Like that scene on the highway in T2. Why is that scene amazing? It's of course because it's shot amazingly well, great choreography, but because of what's happening, the stakes. We care about the T800. We care about John Connor. We care about Sarah Connor, and the T1000 is scary as F. So because we care about those characters, that scene means so much more. So if you don't care about the characters, these action set pieces can't work. And until Nolan gets characters we can care for, his blockbusters will always ultimately fail. They will always ultimately fail. Who do you think had the best acting performance in Tenet? Oh no, for me it has to be Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh definitely had the best performance. Look, the guy he's an old school actor, like Shakespeare guy, like he's been doing it for ages. But I think in terms of just quality of acting, he was good. I think John David Washington was a very good lead, and I felt Elizabeth Debicki was. I think she was good, but she acted well, but her character didn't. The way it was written didn't really push her to any true interesting emotional places. So, but for me, if I had to say, I would say Kenneth Branagh was the best in that, man. So is Nolan a one-note director, and is he running out of a well to draw from compared to say Sam Mendes or other very guys? I believe so. I believe so, and I think that because when you watch this, it feels, even if it's like a different story and concept, it feels so similar to Inception, and it shows that. You see, Nolan can come up with many great ideas, but visually, in terms of visuals, he's limited in what he can give us visually. You see, someone like an Aronofsky, because Aronofsky at the core is an artist, you look at, Pi, Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, Mother, Noah. These things look completely different from one another visually. And that's because that's what he can do. Even Sam Mendes, like American Beauty, Skyfall, those, and even Jarhead, all completely different. So I think for Nolan, it's because I'm not thinking about visually, it felt very stale. There wasn't a real kind of sexiness with the visuals. And you need that for thing. Again, I go to the main thing. Matrix had a very distinct look. T2 had a very distinct look. Indiana Jones had a very distinct look, liking itself back to the 50s and so forth. These kinds of things, they have a very distinct look and visuals because these guys understand the importance of you painting an interesting visual image that is needed. So it just seems as if like, bro, like he doesn't like. If all you offer is a great idea, but you can't execute it well, then what's the point? You can't make a blockbuster that is supposed to be for the masses. That's a mathematical puzzle. In my screening, I think 4 people left in my screening. I think, 2 sets of couples left in my screening because they were like, bro, what the heck is happening? And I was sitting, I was like, I'm sure half of these people are like, what the heck is going on? A mother brought her kids to watch. These kids must have been about 13, 12, maybe 12, 13. I said, there is no way in hell these 12, 13-year-old kids understand what the heck is happening. Again, that's the issue. See, this film is a 12A. Robert Gallo, I'm talking about, it's called Tenet. It's a new film coming out. It's called Tenet. See, this film is a 12A. Okay. So if it's a 12A means that if you're under 12, you have to be accompanied by an adult. But really, 12A means that it's for the masses. It's for the general audience. It's for general consumption. So an 11, 12-year-old should be able to enjoy it. There is no way in hell a 12-year-old watches this film first of all, understands it or enjoys it. No way. My my 12-year-old self there's no way I would enjoy this film. No way. I would find it boring. You see, me being older, I'm like, but my 12-year-old self, man, I would either fall asleep or I'll just leave. I was like, no, this is boring. Because the action isn't cool enough. The actions isn't interesting. They're not cool, interesting characters. It doesn't visually look cool. I'd be bored. So this is the issue. If you're making a 12A, which is for everybody, you can't put that out for this are for 15, 18-year-old people who really can follow the plot. It's 11, 12-year-old is like, Mom, get me the heck out of here. I don't understand what the heck is going on. They're talking about time travel, physics, and all that kind of stuff. Nah, I'm out. Real deal. Thank you for the super chat, man. Nolan wanted the music to be louder than the speech. The critics complain about lack of character development. They say you have to see it twice. You don't have to see it twice. I don't know why. You don't have to see it twice. Yeah, I really, because this was the same thing with Inception. I really feel that Nolan tries really hard to make the speech like super loud. To make it sound like super loud. Because trust me, I watch a lot of films in the cinema. The loudest sounds I've ever had experienced in a cinema has been Inception and this. I'm like, no, this is loud. I know how music and sound should sound in cinema. This is loud. Yeah, there was no character development. It didn't exist. Basically, there was no character arc. Like, when I look at how the character was in the beginning and to the end, there is no arc. I'm like, yeah, the guy's still practically the same. Even in Inception, DiCaprio wasn't really an actor. And that's the thing. DiCaprio is a very talented actor. How good was DiCaprio in Inception? Really, how well did he use DiCaprio's talents in Inception? No, because DiCaprio was just a backdrop for the plot and for the story. You didn't. And guys, that is the ABC of writing. Screenwriting is let's say if I'm an actor and I read a script, I want to know, okay, where does my character start? Where does it end? Let me track his emotional arc. So this is what he goes through. You don't get that in these Nolan films, man. Did Nolan say all he will ever say as a director with his first 3 to 5 films? No, see, this is my thing. He has great ideas. He just does not know how to execute them. This is a great, fresh idea. It's a really great idea. But the execution was off. And that's the thing. An idea is only as good as its execution. You have to know how to put it across in a way that is understandable. For instance, put it this way. If, let's say, Nolan had the idea for The Matrix, it wouldn't turn out like how the Wachowskis did it. Because Nolan would want to go so deep into the Matrix, how the world works, the people coming through the thing with the machine. So you just get so lost. But the Wachowski was like, okay, this is a cool concept, but we have to marry this with action, sci-fi, and a great story. A story that really gets people invested. And that's the key thing. You have to have a strong arc. So do all your plots, but there has to be an arc so us as the audience can say, aha, the character began here. This is what happened. This is how it changed. This is a twist, and then this is how he then ended. You're like, look at the journey he has made through the trajectory of this film. You need to have that. That is imperative. And Nolan just doesn't give a crap about his characters. He just doesn't. For Nolan, his main concern is the story and the plot, specifically the plot. His main aim is the plot and how complicated the plots can be. The more complicated, the better. But I say, bruh, that's not a blockbuster. A blockbuster can't be a mathematical puzzle. The first job of a blockbuster film is to entertain. That is the first job. Then you want to know that's clever, that's interesting. But the first job is, so when you come and say, man, I was entertained, I had fun, I enjoyed myself. I didn't enjoy myself after Tenet. Oh, there were some interesting ideas. There were some very cool scenes, interesting scenes, some shocking moments. But did I enjoy myself? No, I didn't enjoy myself. I was like, oh man, I was into Cloverfield. I thoroughly enjoyed myself after Cloverfield. Oh, that was a great ride. That was a superb ride. After I was like, oh my god, that movie was, that was boom. You know? But so, and that is that's the main name of a blockbuster. So if we could get Nolan concepts executed by James Cameron, Gareth Evans, or McTiernan, we would get something though. Shame directors don't collab. You see, but here's the thing though. There is no way in hell Nolan will ever collab. And the issue is, the more that the Nolan fanboys and the Nolan cults religiously follow him and so forth, the more that he will double and triple down with making his films even more and more complicated. Like 100%. If Nolan gave some of his concepts to a James Cameron, you would have a superb film. This could have, when you guys watch it and I do a spoiler review, this could have been a superb film. This could have been a superb film. Like, this could have been a truly, truly superb film. Because there are some interesting ideas. There's some ideas, but it's just that an idea is only one part of the process. You now take that idea and like, how do I marry this idea into a really great story with great characters and a great narrative that the masses can follow? It's complicated. But Nolan is like, he gets the idea and just shoves the idea inside it. It's like, no, forget the characters. Let me just shove this idea here and just deal with it. No. You take the idea, but you've got to refine the idea. You've got to shine it and be like, and properly execute it. Guys, when I go to a film, I don't go to a film to attend a physics class or to attend a quantum physics class. I go to a film to escape. I go to a film to be entertained. I don't go to a film to be like, okay, so the fourth root to the sixth root and everything. Okay, so, and then E equals 4. No. But then the entropy carry the 3. What? No, you don't do that. You don't do that, bro. Have you seen Mulholland Drive by David Lynch? Yes, I have. I can't remember what the chick is called, but she had a very nice rack. Yeah, I've seen. What's it called? Naomi Watts. And I forgot the name of the other lady. And he was in. I forgot the name of the other dude. Yeah, I've seen it. Confusing film. I don't really understand what that film was about. But again, very, very visual. Very, very, very well filmed. Very well filmed. Very well filmed. But yeah, it's a film that I don't really understand, man. I don't understand. Nolan or Mel Gibson? Oh, even if he is racist, he's a racist and he's a madman. Easily Mel. And for me, Mel Gibson is a superior director to Nolan. Superior. Like, putting the man to one side, Mel Gibson is an outstanding director. And again, look at Braveheart. Look at Passion of the Christ. Look at Apocalypto. Look at Hacksaw Ridge. These are 4 outstanding films that all feel very different. And the thing with Mel Gibson is, the difference between Nolan and Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's the thing he cares about the most is the character. Before anything else. In every Mel Gibson film, the strongest part of the film is the character. You connecting with the character, connecting with the emotion of the character. Whether it's a guy who Hacksaw Ridge, you're going into war, but you are a conscientious. No, you don't. You're like a pacifist. You will go there to heal people, but you will not pick up a gun. Understanding that psychology, he zeroed in. Braveheart, a man who was willing to risk everything in order for his country against the invading army. Apocalypto, a guy who is on the run, trying to go back to his family, dealing with what was a changing world, passion of the Christ, Jesus Christ, him suffering and being destroyed for sin. So, and for me, that is where I get drawn in, where character. I need to connect with the character. See, for Nolan, just doesn't do characters well. He does not do chemistry well. None of his characters in his films have been like, oh wow, I really connected with the character. He just does not know how to do that, man. It's just not one of his strength, man. Oh yeah, he directed Braveheart. Yeah, man, Braveheart. What is it? Eastwood or Mel Gibson, David Fincher or Quentin Tarantino. The second one is hard. The first one is still easy. I would still say Mel Gibson. Eastwood is very good, but I would still say Mel Gibson. Now this is hard. Fincher or Quentin Tarantino. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat. In terms of visuals, just visual, Fincher. But in terms of narrative and story, Tarantino. So that's what I'll say. Fincher literally, the way in which his films look, he has a very unique look to his films, which I think is amazing, where you can just look at any still of a movie and you can say, oh no, that's a David Fincher film. Similar to Wes Anderson. You can see a still of anything and say, oh no, that's a Wes Anderson film. So for me, same thing with David Fincher. So for me, in terms of visuals, David Fincher, but Tarantino, narrative, story, characters, so forth. Tarantino is my dude, man. So see, and that's see for me, and see the whole Nolan thing. I said again, it's begun. Dark Knight was the last 7 minutes, guys. So if you want to send in any questions, send them now. 7 minutes, and then I'll be out of here. The biggest mistake was Dark Knight, because what Dark Knight did was create this incredibly passionate fan base for Nolan, who, come rain, come sunshine, they will always defend him, because a lot of his serious supporters are guys that loved the Dark Knight. Because see, Dark Knight, I didn't like that movie, but that movie is, Warner Bros. Literally said, take as much money as he wants for Inception, because we want a sequel for the Dark Knight. And I think Nolan, because he sees what people are saying about the film, about his films, and so forth, he's like, oh, I must be doing this right. See, my voice is in my minority that says he shouldn't be doing blockbusters. He doesn't execute his ideas very well, and he's really bad with characters. But my voice is a minority. The majority of people are like, oh no, he's amazing, he's superb, he's this, he's that, and so forth. So he'll never change. But if I couldn't, he'll never change. My advice to Nolan would be, step away from blockbusters. Step away from large-scale films. Go back to smaller movies. Go back to Memento. Go back to Prestige. Go back to Insomnia, Following. Do a smaller film with a crazy, interesting plot. Because the issue is he's mixing the two, which is what I said before. He's mixing indie movies with blockbuster. So it's a weird mix. And those two worlds should never mix. The indie world is different from the blockbuster world. Scorsese would never touch a big budget movie. Aronofsky, he's an indie filmmaker. Aronofsky doesn't know. I'm not a big budget maker. Even if he could do it, But Aronofsky, no. I'm in the indie world where you can experiment, you can be complex, you can be this. As the dude just said, David Lynch, who tried to do a big budget movie in Dune, but what's failed, and said, okay, you know what? That's not my forte. Like with something like Mulholland Drive and what David Lynch makes, those are indie movies that can be blockbuster movies. Blockbuster and indie are two totally different worlds. And the mistake people have made is, oh no, blockbuster movies should be as complex and as experimental as indie films. No. Blockbuster movies it's for everyone, which is what James Cameron understands. Because James Cameron knows that, and this is what James Cameron says. James Cameron says that I don't make films for film snobs and critics and a few people. I make films for the masses. And because I'm making films for the masses, from the layman to the 9-year-old to the 8-year-old and everything, it needs to be understood and consumed by the masses. And the key thing is entertainment. The masses go to the cinema to be entertained. See, for me, I want to be entertained. I want to be informed. I want to be challenged. I want to be this. But I am the 1% who is a cinephile. We are a serious minority. The majority of people, they're not looking to go to the cinema to try and think. Two things they want. Two things people want in movies, the 99%, to be entertained, to be emotionally affected, which is what James Cameron did with Avatar and Titanic. So to the people, what? No, three emotions that the masses want: laugh, cry, be wowed and amazed. Those are three things: to laugh, to cry, to be wowed and amazed. Those are the three main things that the mass audiences want from a blockbuster. You have to give them these things. So in Tenet, I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. So I wasn't emotionally invested. I was amazed in bits, but not enthralled. Which is why T2 for me is the greatest blockbuster of all time, because in T2 you laugh because Annie provides some great one-liners. You cry because that ending was very emotional, and you were enthralled because you were seeing cutting-edge special effects and superb, amazing action choreography. So those are the three elements you need in a blockbuster. If you don't hit these three, you fail. You fail. So that's the thing, man. Was this movie as confusing as Inception? I would argue this movie was more. No, movie was more confusing than Inception, because this was dealing with many different elements. Many. It was with so many different elements. I would say it was more. It was slightly more. Inception was confusing, but this, when you watch it, like, bro, there's so much stuff. I mean, it's pretty easy to understand what the concept is, but when you just think about all the different elements that are going through a specific and the different things you have to be thinking about, you're like, oh, what's this? This is forward, backward. It's a bit much, man. Sorry. I want to get to that. Would you rather think in a theater or be taken to another world in an escapist art film? I would rather the latter. I don't mind the former, being thinking, but if I had to choose between the two, is the latter. Real world sucks. The real world is crap. We go to the films to escape the real world. For 2-3 hours, let me escape to a different. Which is why I love Blade Runner so much. Which is why I love watching cartoons, because cartoons are so hyper real, over real, that it takes me out of the real world. So be taken to another world. So yeah, I'd rather be taken to another world in an escapist film, for sure. Nolan has currently bought 1,000%. Think about it. If everybody spends their time saying that you're a genius, you're super smart, you are a masterpiece filmmaker, you're one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, of course you will buy your own hype, for sure. So why should you change? So you will double down and show how really smart and brilliant you are. But my thing is that I don't think Nolan is as smart as he thinks he is. That's my thing. I just don't think he's as smart as he thinks he is. And I just feel that it is extremely irresponsible that you're making a 12A film that is for the masses, and you're trying your hardest to make it as confusing and as complicated as possible. That is irresponsible filmmaking for me. That is irresponsible filmmaking for me. So yeah, that's why I respect Spielberg, Ridley Scott, and Mangold. They're versatile directors and do it well. Oh, but look, for that's why Spielberg is the greatest, because Spielberg, he can do anything and do anything well. Whether you want a war movie, you want sci-fi, you want drama, you want this, that, he can do you and give you everything. So guys, so that's probably all from one. Again, if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer any of your questions about the film. You know, if you have any questions to the film, I will do my best to answer without not spoiling anything. Because I want to wait until it opens up in America, then I'll then release my spoiler review. But it's what it is. I think, see, now talking about it with you guys, I think I've definitely formed a more crystallized opinion of what this film is about. And I think, yeah, it's and I think the key bottom line is, this is an irresponsibly made blockbuster. That's my thing. You know, great ideas, superb ideas, and so forth. The execution was now. There is a way in which you make a blockbuster. There is a form. I don't like the word formula, but there is a way in which you make a blockbuster, and a blockbusters don't coincide with the indie world. And what people don't want to accept, and what Nolan doesn't want to accept, is you belong in the indie world. You don't belong in the blockbuster world. Because, see, Cameron can't do what Nolan does. See, Cameron can't do a Mensa or a Prestige. He can't do that. Nolan can't do what James Cameron does. And see, this is the issue. Nolan wants to be like a Spielberg and a James Cameron and a Lucas, because those are the films he grew up watching. So he wants to make a Star Wars. He wants to make an Indiana Jones. But the issue is that Nolan doesn't want to accept what he is and what he isn't. He wants to be a Spielberg. He wants to be a James Cameron. But he can't be. And that's not a bad thing, because for me, Spielberg can't do what Nolan does. See, Spielberg can't make a Memento or a Prestige. A very intricate plot-driven film. You see, something like Memento and Prestige, the characters are not important, because these are indie films where it's about the plot, and these are thrillers. So with thrillers and so forth, the characters are important, but really, you could argue that the plot is more important, because it's really much more about the intricacy of the plot. But once you're now doing a blockbuster where there is a protagonist and there's an antagonist, because in every blockbuster, there must be a hero and there must be a villain. If there's a hero and a villain, you have to connect with what the hero is. It has to be properly well drawn. So that's the key thing, man. Which would say, did HS explain the difference? I was late to the stream. What difference are you referring to? And maybe I will try and go back to it. So what reference are you going to, man? Tell me what it is, and then I will try and go back into it. But look, I said again, look, see, some people may have anybody who watches this film the first time and understands everything, I think you're lying. I think you're lying. 100%, you need to watch the film at least 2 or 3 times to really get everything. Now, you maybe get a lot, but to understand the entire film and everything that is happening, first time, you're lying. You're telling a lie. Okay, so don't give me any of that crap, man. But my thing is, you need. I think there is a style that is needed that doesn't bring through. Oh, so blockbuster and indie. So you see, a blockbuster movie, you need to have these 3 elements are essential for a blockbuster film, because we have to keep in mind, a blockbuster is made for the masses. It's not made for cinephiles. Indies are made for cinephiles. The layman on the street isn't going to the cinema to watch an indie. He's not. I am. Captain Levi's Pages. We're the 1% that are going in there to watch these indie films. But an indie film can do anything. An indie film can be complicated, can be weird, can be awkward. It can be all of these different kinds of things, But A blockbuster has to make you laugh, has to affect you emotionally, probably make you cry, and it has got to excite you or enthrall you. Those are the three things that it has to do. You know, laugh, humor. It's going to be cry, emotional moments, and it's going to enthrall you and wow you with special effects or grandiose, amazing action set pieces. That's what a blockbuster must do. And remember, a blockbuster are for the masses, it's for everyone. Everyone must be able to consume it. Indie is not for everyone. Indie is where you as an artist, you see, when you do a blockbuster, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility that is beyond you. You have a responsibility to the masses, the entire world, because you're putting it out there to everyone to watch. Indie, the only responsibility you have as an indie is to yourself. That is where you can fully indulge yourself in your art. And indie are for guys like me or Captain Levi's page where we are cinephiles. You know, where we are obsessed about films. I mean, watch all sorts of films from top, bottom, down, and so forth. But most people aren't watching indies because they're not cinephiles. They are casual film goers. You see, everyone loves films. Everyone loves films, but not everyone loves specific kinds of all kinds of films. So that's the thing, man. Oh, so Viltmon, you saw it. B plus for sure. Okay, if I was marking this a grading, maybe like a B minus. B minus. I mean, no, I mean, you see, because it's well made. That's the thing. It's well made. There are some very interesting concepts. I think John David Washington is a good lead. He's a good lead star. Some very interesting ideas. Some cool, very cool moments in there. So because a C is where you're just average. You see, like C is something like Thor, like the first Thor. Yeah, that's a C. You know, Dark Knight Rises for me is like a D. This is okay. But yeah, so I'd say a B minus, But for me, like B plus thingy. See now, if we're not doing out of 10, out of 10, if we're doing out of 10, I think 7 might. I think 7. Yeah, 7 out of 10 sounds right. 7 sounds because 5 is average. This is better than a 6. See, 8 for me, no. See, for me, 8 is okay. This is a good film. Like this film is good. Can be better, but it's good. I can't call this a good film because I just had too many issues with even watching. I just had too many issues with the film. So when you have several issues, that's not an 8. An 8 is a few issues, but it was mostly good. So you're mostly positive about it. See, for me, my thing is the positives and the negatives are like this for the film. They're like this, you know. Oh, this is a good one. From this performance, do you think Robert Pattinson will be a good Batman Bruce Wayne? It's all dependent on the direction. You know, you see, Pattinson is not like a superb, amazing actor. He's a good actor, and you can see that he's a good actor. And you could see that there are certain things there, especially with his eyes, his emotions, and everything. If the material is good and is directed well, he could be a very interesting Bruce Wayne and Batman. But it's all about the direction that he's given. You see, actors are the behest of the directors. I've seen Al Pacino in Brick films. I've seen De Niro in Brick films because they've been directed poorly. You know, like De Niro and Pacino were in this film called Righteous Kill by John Avnet. Garbage film. Not because De Niro and Pacino are crap actors, because the director is a flipping brick. So, but yeah, if Matt Reeves directs him well, you could get a very interesting Batman Bruce Wayne. Because make no mistake, he is a good actor, but he is an actor that needs specific direction. If the director will, boom, you could argue with Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was a decent actor, but under the right teaching of Nolan, the right material. But I think that was more so of Heath Ledger just being inspired. He was able to give you magic. My problems with blockbusters nowadays is that they're poorly written or rehashes. That's why I don't watch most of them now, which is true. Which is true. I think because see, back in the day, like back in the 80s, I think 80s was when you really began to start blockbusters, was in the 80s. So in the 80s, you had like maybe one blockbuster a year, and that was it. You just had the one. So with most films, you just had the one or two in the summer, and that was it. Then when Spider-Man came out, because like, oh, then the comic book movie thing came through. Then it was the influx of special effects. Then I remember, I think it was 2007, where there were literally about 5 or 6 blockbusters in one summer. I think it was the summer of, you had Pirates of the Caribbean, you had Spider-Man 3, and some other films as well, some other break films. I think there was even like a Fast and Furious. So, and I think, you see, when you just have too much of something, it dilutes everything. And I think that has been the issue, that when you just have an influx of all this stuff, you're like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. This is too much, man. This is too much. So if someone is doubtful about Pattinson, no, for me, I think his best performance is in Good Times. I think it's on Netflix. That's probably his best performance. See, Lighthouse, he was good in that. He's good. So this isn't a break actor. He's good. But for me, I felt Willem Dafoe stole the show, and he should have been nominated for an Oscar. I mean, Willem Dafoe was easily the best in that film, for sure. For sure, I felt he was the best in that film. You see, Vilton, I don't want to say too much. I want to save everything for the spoiler review, because I've not seen it. So I want to just wait until America gets it, and I'll do it in a spoiler review. But see, Vilton, I see you will know, is Vilton, he could have done more. As I said, some of the stuff you see there was pretty damn cool. It's like, it's similar to Inception, but even more so in this. There are some scenes, there are some moments that are amazing, but they're just moments. Like, oh, that was cool. Oh, that was really crazy. Oh, that was crazy. And how he controlled that's crazy. But I'm looking at the whole pie. See, an amazing film isn't just a series of moments scattered around. An amazing film is where the whole pie is quality. Quality. So that's the thing that so guys, look, man, I think I've talked enough about this good old Tenet, man. And I think, look, all that's left for you guys to do is to go and watch it, man. It's like, you see, it's one of those things of where, because I think even Mosab was saying that he's probably not even going to go and watch the film now. I think it's a case of, if you're going out, if you want to film where you don't have to think much and just want to really enjoy yourself and just really escape and just really enjoy yourself, I don't think this is the film for you. If you want to think, be challenged and stuff, oh, I think you would definitely love this. If you want to be challenged mentally, psychologically, I think that you would find this really, really cool. So it depends what you're after, man. For me, it really depends what you're after. For me personally, I do like to be challenged a bit in films and stuff. I do like that. For me, I just feel that the way it was presented was a bit too muddled, But you may enjoy it. You may enjoy it, You may enjoy. Oh yeah, so yeah. 07, yeah. So so you may enjoy. So it just really depends how you stack up with it, man. So guys, man, that's all from me. Maybe I may talk more about it tomorrow, and so forth. Those are my initial thoughts, the non-spoiler review, and I don't see. I don't know whether I don't see. For me, people say, okay, would you recommend this? It depends on the kind of person you are. Judging from how Mosab is talking, I probably wouldn't recommend it to someone like Mosab. But for some other people, maybe like Sean C, like maybe I would recommend it to you. So you see, something like Cloverfield, I don't care who you are, I will recommend that film to everybody. So it's really up and down. Guys, I've talked enough. I better get out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow for perhaps a sorry, Friday. Yeah, I'll probably see you tomorrow or Sunday. Just check the channel. Check the channel. I'll see you all tomorrow. See you all tomorrow. Peace. Become a Half Hope Sort member and gain access to exclusive videos and also the chance to watch films, anime, or different videos with your boy HH exclusively. Just click below on the join button to join in and become a Half Hope Sort member to gain access to these perks. Just click on the community icon over here to view the new members only posts.